The betting halls of Station Kephara Nine had seen their share of fools. But this one? This one took the grand trophy of stupidity and wore it like a crown. I'm Vexith, third-tier bookmaker for the Galactic Combat League. And let me tell you something. I've been running odds for 200 cycles. 200. I've watched Kralix warriors crush their opponents into paste. I've seen Thorn Raiders move so fast they left afterimages. I've even witnessed a Quellan monk win a match using nothing but telekinetic force and what I can only describe as aggressive meditation. But this human? This scrawny, soft-skinned, water-based mammal who called himself Marcus Flynn? Yeah, he was going to die. Spectacularly. You sure about this, mammal? I clicked my mandibles together, the universal sign for, you're making a terrible mistake. Registration fee is non-refundable, especially when they scrape what's left of you off the arena floor. Marcus looked up at me with those weird, forward-facing eyes that humans have. Predator eyes, technically, though looking at his frame you'd never guess it. He couldn't have weighed more than 80 kilos soaking wet, and his only visible weapon was a smile that suggested he either knew something I didn't, or he'd already suffered severe head trauma. I'm sure, he said, sliding the credit chip across my counter. I stared at it, then at him, then back at it. Listen, Flynn, the Crimson Bracket isn't some backwater exhibition match. You're looking at professional killers, trained assassins, beings who've spent their entire lives perfecting the art of turning other beings into corpses. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. Last cycle, we had a Vorgoth champion named Krell the Render. Know what he did to his final opponent? Actually, never mind. You don't want to know. The cleanup crew still has nightmares. Marcus just kept smiling. Is Krell entering this cycle? Well, no. He retired. Something about wanting to spend more time with his spawn before the trauma became permanent. But that's not the point. Then I'll take my chances. I processed his registration with all 6 of my hands, muttering curses in 3 different languages. Humans. Ever since they'd stumbled onto the galactic stage 30 cycles ago, they'd been causing problems. Too curious, too stubborn, too willing to do things that any sensible species would recognize as suicide. The tournament began 3 rotations later. Opening ceremony. Standard fare. Lights. Announcements. The commissioner giving his speech about honor and combat, and please try not to destroy the expensive equipment this time. 64 fighters from across the galaxy, all gathered in one place. All convinced they were the baddest thing since antimatter warheads. Marcus drew lot number 47. His first opponent? A stealth berserker named Vraxx who stood 3 meters tall and had acid for blood. Literally. His species evolved on a death world where the rain could melt tungsten. The odds? 5,000 to 1 against the human. I put a small personal bet on Marcus lasting at least 90 seconds before dying. Call it sentiment. Call it stupidity. Call it whatever you want. I was hedging my bets on entertainment value. The arena fell silent as both fighters entered the combat sphere. Force fields hummed to life, containing the battle space. Vraxx roared, flexing muscles that had muscles, his exoskeleton gleaming under the lights. He'd killed 19 opponents in his career. 19. One of them had been a tank, an actual armored vehicle. Marcus stretched, like he was warming up for a morning jog. The buzzer sounded. Vraxx charged, moving with the speed and grace of a planetary collision. His claws extended, each one capable of shearing through starship hull plating. He closed the distance in under 2 seconds, bringing down both arms in a strike that should have split Marcus down the middle like overripe fruit. Except Marcus wasn't there anymore. The human had moved, not in any way that made sense. No augmentation signature, no teleportation flash. He just wasn't in that spot anymore. And Vraxx's claws hit nothing but air and arena flooring, which cracked under the impact. Huh, Marcus said from Vraxx's left. You're fast. That's actually pretty impressive for someone your size. Vraxx spun, snarling, and threw a combination that would have liquefied a lesser opponent. Marcus dodged each strike with movements so minimal they barely qualified as movements at all. A slight lean here, a half step there. His hands stayed in his pockets. His hands stayed in his pockets. The crowd was dead silent now. This wasn't how these matches went. This wasn't how physics worked. Vraxx unleashed his signature move, the spiral death strike, a spinning attack that generated enough force to create a visible shockwave. I'd seen it decapitate 3 opponents simultaneously once. Marcus ducked under it, came up behind Vraxx, and tapped him on the shoulder. Boo! The Skelth Berserker whirled around, and Marcus finally moved his hands out of his pockets. Not to strike, not to defend. He held them up in a gesture of peace, still wearing that insufferable smile. You're really good at this, Marcus said pleasantly. But you're also really, really angry. Has anyone ever told you that fury makes you predictable? Vraxx screamed and lunged. Marcus sidestepped, stuck out 1 foot, and the 3-meter-tall Berserker face-planted into the arena floor with enough force to crack his exoskeleton. The match timer read 8 seconds. 8 seconds. Vraxx didn't get up. The medic drones swarmed in, checking vital signs, confirming what everyone already knew. Knockout. Clean. Final. Humiliating. Marcus walked out of the arena, waving to the still silent crowd. I stared at my display terminal, watching my calculations rewrite themselves in real time. The odds on Marcus Flynn surviving round 2 had just shifted from astronomical to merely improbable. And somewhere in the back of my mind, past the shock and the disbelief, a small voice whispered something terrifying. What if he actually wins this thing? By round 3, the entire station had gone absolutely insane. You want to know what happens when a species that everyone assumed was soft, weak, and hopelessly outclassed starts dismantling professional fighters like they're teaching a beginner's class? Panic. Beautiful, profitable, utterly chaotic panic. The betting pools had exploded. And I mean that literally. We had to shut down Hall 7 after a Crithian trader lost so much money on Marcus's second match that he started firing plasma rounds at the betting boards. Can't say I blamed him. Marcus had just defeated a chi-trained Mandar warrior named Tessic the Unbreakable in 43 seconds. 43 seconds. Tessic had been undefeated for 16 cycles. His meditation techniques allowed him to turn his body into living stone. Marcus had simply waited for Tessic to throw a punch, redirected the force, and used the Mandar's own momentum to send him flying out of the combat sphere. Technical knockout. The crowd had rioted for 20 minutes. And now? Now Marcus was facing Sylla Korenth in the quarterfinals. Sylla wasn't just dangerous. She was terror-given form. A Nexian assassin with quantum blade implants and a neural response time measured in microseconds. She'd won her previous match in under 5 seconds. 5. Her opponent hadn't even finished his battle cry before she'd carved him into geometric shapes. The odds on Marcus? Still against him. But they dropped from 5,000 to 1 down to 12 to 1. People were starting to believe. And that was somehow more frightening than when they thought he was just lucky. I watched from my booth as both fighters entered the arena. Sylla moved like liquid mercury, her blades already extending from her forearms, humming with quantum instability. Each weapon could phase through conventional matter and reform inside her target. Shields meant nothing. Armor meant nothing. Distance meant nothing. Marcus walked in eating some kind of earth snack. Looked like compressed grain covered in seasoning. He crunched it thoughtfully, studying Sylla like she was a mildly interesting museum exhibit. You don't seem concerned, Sylla said, her voice modulated to induce minor paralysis in most species. Do you not understand what's about to happen? Marcus swallowed his snack. Oh, I understand perfectly. You're extremely skilled. Probably the most dangerous opponent I've faced so far. Your blade work is exceptional, and those quantum weapons are fascinating. Really top-tier engineering. Sylla's eyes narrowed. And yet you stand there. Unarmed. Unaugmented. Unbothered. Yeah, about that. Marcus dusted off his hands. See, I've been wondering something. You all keep talking about augmentations and weapons and training from birth. But has anyone here actually fought someone who grew up on a death world? I felt my breathing tubes constrict. Because I'd read the human homeworld files. Earth. 0.98 standard gravity. Atmospheric oxygen levels that would be toxic to most species without causing intoxication. Predators at every level of the food chain. Bacteria that could kill. Plants that could kill. Weather that could kill. Other humans that could definitely kill. The Galactic Council had classified Earth as a Class 7 death world. There were only 4 planets in the known galaxy with a higher danger rating, and 3 of them were quarantined for being too hostile to support complex life. Humans had evolved there. Thrived there. Conquered it. Your planet's classification means nothing here, Sylla hissed. Marcus tilted his head. Doesn't it though? Because I grew up in a place where everything wanted to kill me. My own body wants to kill me if I eat the wrong thing. My stress response is designed to make me faster, stronger, and angrier when threatened. My brain is wired to find patterns in chaos, to predict movement, to turn fear into fuel. He smiled again. That same, insufferable, terrifying smile. You were built for this. I was born for it. The buzzer sounded. Sylla moved at speeds that shouldn't have been possible. Her blades phased in and out of reality, creating a web of lethal trajectories that covered every possible escape route. I couldn't even track her movements properly. My compound eyes, evolved to process multiple visual spectrums simultaneously, couldn't keep up. But Marcus could. He flowed between her strikes like water, never quite where her blades materialized. When she adjusted, increasing her speed, he adjusted faster. When she tried to predict his movements, he became unpredictable. And slowly, methodically, he started moving closer instead of away. Sylla realized her mistake too late. Marcus caught her wrist mid-strike, twisted, and suddenly the quantum blade was pointed at its owner. Sylla tried to phase it, but Marcus had already shifted his grip, applying pressure to nerve clusters that forced her hand to lock. Respect, Marcus said quietly, his voice carrying across the silent arena. You're incredible, but you're fighting like someone who's never lost. Like someone who's never had to adapt mid-combat, because the alternative was death. He released her, stepped back, and assumed a relaxed stance. Sylla stared at him, blades still extended, breathing hard. Then, in a move that shocked everyone, she retracted her weapons and bowed. I yield. The arena erupted. Half the crowd was screaming in outrage. The other half was screaming in jubilation. I was screaming because my profit margins had just inverted themselves so hard I'd need an accountant and possibly a therapist. Marcus advanced to the semifinals. Then the finals. Each match played out the same way. Superior opponents. Superior weapons. Superior augmentations. And every single time, Marcus adapted, adjusted, and won. The final match lasted 4 minutes and 17 seconds. His opponent was Korenth, the reigning champion, a cybernetically enhanced Dravik with enough military hardware grafted onto his body to qualify as a small warship. Marcus won by making Korenth punch himself in the face. Repeatedly. Until the champion's own systems registered a knockout. When they placed the champion's circlet on Marcus Flynn's head, when the commissioner declared him the new Galactic Combat League tournament winner, the human didn't boast, didn't gloat, didn't make speeches about human superiority. He just smiled, waved to the crowd, and said, "Good fights, everyone." Same time next cycle. I closed my betting terminal and stared at the final numbers. I'd lost more credits than I'd made in 10 cycles. And somehow, I wasn't even mad. I just witnessed history. The day an unknown human walked into the most dangerous tournament in the galaxy and walked out as a living myth. Marcus Flynn, they'd call him. The unaugmented. The adapter. The human who proved that sometimes, evolution's greatest weapon isn't claws or armor or quantum blades. Sometimes, it's just the sheer, bloody-minded stubbornness to never stop moving forward. Even when everything in the universe is trying to kill you. Especially then. So what did you think? Did this story surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sci-fi story, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing science fiction stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.